Hello there, and welcome back to the channel. I was wandering to the shop this morning when I noticed a bird call. And you tend to notice many bird calls here, but this one was quite distinct, really. So I looked up on the wires, the telephone cables, were a couple of kiskadees. They're a lovely bird, about maybe the size of a woodpecker, but they have a lovely yellow breast. Quite beautiful bird, really, and very distinctive sound. I don't know if it's October. I'm not a great naturalist. I'm certainly not in the league of David Attenborough. But I think it's October. I think maybe they migrate here around this time. So when I got home, I then realized, when I thought about the kiskadee, just how nice and wide a variety of bird life there is here in Nuevo León, and especially in my little part of Nuevo León. It is nice. Anyway, apart from the ubiquitous sparrows and pigeons that every city seems to have, there are many of these little kind of bonsai pigeon, I guess they are. I'm not sure what they are actually called. I don't know. I don't know if it's a quail. No, they're too slender to be a quail. I must look for the name of them. Anyway, I remember walking home one time, and there was one lying on the ground. Obviously, due to the heat, it seemed to have fallen out of the sky. Yeah, it does get rather hot for birds here in Monterey. So, yeah, I picked it up, kind of nursed it back to health, and off it went. So to quote a certain Monty Python sketch, it was obviously tired and shagged out after a long squawk. Another of those ubiquitous ones, you see so many of them, they have this kind of squawking sound, is one that they call a zanate here. I don't know if it's a crow, but it seems to have its tail on vertically instead of horizontal. I'm not sure if they're called grackles. I'm not sure, are they? They might actually be a kind of starling in some way. I don't know, but they're very black, and the young ones are a little more brown, it seems. Yeah, there are some quite interesting birds that I see in my neighborhood, rather like this couple of kiskadees that I saw this morning. But I have, on occasion, seen a red cardinal. They are real beautiful. They're so deep crimson in color. They are gorgeous. They are native to Mexico and a lot of North America, but I haven't seen them many times. Just occasionally you'll see one, but they are a really nice bird to see. And when you walk around the park, there are always many woodpeckers around. You hear them occasionally hammering away at the trees, trying to get some grubs and other things. And they also have this distinctive call, and you know by the sound, that's a woodpecker. Of course, every day I will see buzzards. I think they're buzzards. I think they're more a buzzard, more so than an eagle. You see them soaring overhead on the thermals, and then you kind of realize, or you forget that you're living in a place that is at an elevation of 560 meters, and you're surrounded by mountains. But they are really nice to see. You can just watch them as they soar overhead and just enjoy them dancing in the clouds, as it were. I was lucky enough once to see a couple of buzzards in the park just up the road there. And when you see them from a few meters away, they're pretty big. and I'd never seen them in the park before. Um, yeah, for me, it was very lucky to see these buzzards just on the ground. Unfortunately, I wouldn't say it was so lucky for Tiddles, the little cat that was not so fortuitous in seeing a couple of buzzards. I guess that explains the missing cat notice that was on all the lampposts the next day. Yeah, you're always lucky to see different birds as you're going around the state. And I did actually see a roadrunner. On actually a couple of occasions I've seen roadrunners while I've driven on the highways, either up to the border, off to Saltillo or wherever. And yeah, it's nice when you see one scooting across the road. For me, Warner Brothers, in their cartoons, have kind of spoiled the idea of the roadrunner, because when I saw one, somehow I was expecting a coyote with knife and fork running after it. Sadly, that's only in the cartoons. Yeah, those roadrunners are quite anonymous, really. They're very plain in colour, sort of brown with specks, although they have a little bit of a red marking behind the eyes. Yeah, they're a kind of strange bird in the way they run. They're a bit like a gangly pheasant. It's like a teenage pheasant that has got legs that are too long and a tail that is also a little bit in the way of its legs. I remember I used to teach at the little distribution center for the main brewery of Monterey in that lovely Pueblo Mágico, that magic town in Nuevo León, that is Santiago. It's a great place. It's not like 40 kilometers from here, but fabulous place. Always busy on a Saturday and Sunday as the Regios head for lunch in a place called Las Palomas. Lovely restaurant. But anyway, I always used to arrive early, and so would have breakfast at the taco stall just opposite where I was teaching. And I was sitting there one day enjoying my breakfast tacos one Saturday when I heard this kind of odd sound, a bit like a screech with a kind of hard clucking sound, a bit like a capercaillie in some ways. So I turned to the guy at the stall and said, "What's that? What's that sound?" And he said, the chachalaca." The what? Apparently, it's a bird that is native to Mexico. I don't know if they have them in the USA or if there's a certain variety. But across Mexico, you have quite a few of them. And it's very distinctive. The sound is like no other bird. It's almost like they're saying something. But I've heard one, but I've never seen one. But I had a look for one on Google, and they're a bit like, I guess, a tree-dwelling grouse. Kind of, instead of being a low flyer, they're a high flyer. Occasionally, you will see some heron flying over here, mostly around the Santa Catarina River. And a heron is, in Spanish, garza, which means that the next district to here is St. Nicholas of the Heron, San Nicolas de los Garzas. Yeah, the river isn't very far from here, so you do see them now and then flying over. But alongside these, you also find, or I have seen them, because I used to teach at a distribution center not very far from the river. And there is a very large community of a bird that's simply not native to Mexico. You don't really see them much in these parts. They're Egyptian egrets. Why would you find Egyptian egrets in Nuevo León? Well, the answer to that is that in 2010, yes, in 2010, Hurricane Alex decided to pay Monterey a visit and did quite a large amount of devastation, destroying much of main avenues, tearing down bridges, and doing a general amount of harm and destruction around Monterey. Part of what it damaged was the roof to the La Pastora Zoo, which is also not very far from here. And as it ripped off part of the roof, a couple or so, I don't know how many, escaped. And so they obviously found, oh, that part of the river looks nice. So they settled there, and they're thriving rather nicely. But when you see them, and I haven't seen one for some time actually, but they're so glorious when you do see one, is when you see a hummingbird. They're lovely. Actually, I prefer the Spanish name, colibri. They're lovely birds. So tiny and so fast. There's no way you're going to take a photograph of them. But when you do see them feeding on any flowers you have, and if you're lucky to have a bougainvillea, well, then you will get many of them. I must plant one to attract them. I remember sitting inside. I wasn't teaching at the time. I was just sitting on the sofa. And I heard a bird call that I'd never heard before. I thought, I wonder what that is. So I could hear it calling away. So I got my camera bag, put on the long lens, ready to get it. Went outside. Silence. I thought, oh, it's flown away. So I came back inside, sat on the sofa, drank my tea, and I heard it again. Quick, grabbed the camera, whoosh, outside. Nothing. Where did it go? So, back inside, back with my tea. There it was again. Repeated the same thing. Silence. This was a bird with a sense of humor. I decided not to pursue it when I heard it yet again. I just decided I'll sit here, drink my tea, read a book, and enjoy the bird call. I haven't heard the same call since. And of course, there are many green parakeets that fly over the city in the morning, sometimes in the evening, maybe like 4, 5 p.m. And they just fly across. They're a kind of pest, I think. I think in Britain you get them as well. I remember my friend mentioning that you see many of them in Leicester, but they're just so large in the flocks that fly across. I get them across here, but not many. I mean, like a group of 10 or 20 or so. But I used to teach in the main brewery in Monterey, and in the morning, I don't know, 7 in the morning or whenever it was, you would have hordes of these just flying across in, I don't know, hundreds of the buggers. I don't know how they arrived here, because they're not native to Monterey. A parakeet is not really something that you see in desert areas. But obviously somebody must have introduced one to the wild, and many other people must have done the same, and they just built this big community. But the noise, they're just so loud, it's incredible. Yeah, I don't know if they are a pest or if people find them to be a pest, but yeah, they're certainly annoying. There are so many birds here in Nuevo León that I just haven't seen. I mean, there are supposedly many owls. I've never seen an owl. I've never even heard one in an evening. I don't know if you get many of them. I don't know what the varieties are. I mean, in Britain you have a little owl, little-eared owl, barn owls, etc. But here in Mexico, there are two names for an owl. One relates to one particular type and one to another. It's sometimes called buhos, B-U-H-O, or lechuzas. I always get that wrong sometimes and kind of put G instead of Z and call them a lechuga, which is a lettuce. Never make that mistake. You never see a flying lettuce. But no, I've never seen one. Never heard one, but I would love to see one. But people have this kind of, not sure if it's a dislike or fear of an owl, because generally they're white and they're kind of associated with being spirits or witches because of them being white and silent and being of the night. But yes, I would love to see so many of the birds of Nuevo León, and try and photograph them as well as I can. Though my nature photography skills are nowhere near those of my great longtime friend Mark Healy, whose photography is so wonderful. I keep trying to entice Mark to come here to Mexico, but flying is just not his favorite of things to do, which is kind of strange for a photographer of birds to not like flying. But maybe I'll get him here one day. He'll go mad with the bird life here. He'll be able to find some that I've never seen before, I guess. So, thank you very much for watching. This was meant to be a short video, but I just seemed to ramble on a little bit and found more and more things about birds that I didn't think I was going to. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Somewhere, as I say, along the bottom, you'll find the buttons to like, subscribe, and make comments. So, as I say, thank you very much for watching. Bye for now. See you soon.